Hey guys, welcome back to the Sleepy Science. Tonight something ancient stirs beneath you, not loudly, not with movement, but with memory. The night folds in soft around your space, the walls dim slightly, not from shadows but from suggestion. Outside the wind pauses like it's listening. Inside the air settles like dust in a forgotten room. There is something beneath you. No, not your mattress, deeper. The crust of the earth, silent and cold, is layered with secrets. And one of those secrets is a rib cage the size of a canoe. Somewhere miles beneath suburban foundations and supermarket parking lots lies a femur as long as a doorframe. Fossils, bones, beasts that once thundered across open plains that are now filled with city lights and sirens. You probably won't survive this, not because of meteors or monsters, but because you'll be asleep long before the asteroid hits. That's kind of the point. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Where are you listening from tonight? And what time is it over there? Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You close your eyes, and suddenly, time folds inward like a pressed fossil, your breath deepens, and through the gaps of silence you begin to hear something. It's not a roar, not a stomp. It's waiting. The earth beneath your bed is not dead. It holds the imprint of life so enormous, so strange, so vibrantly extinct, that your body hums with its echo. Imagine lying in a meadow millions of years ago, no roads, no phones, just damp ferns rising high as your shoulders, and above you nothing. No moon yet, just starlight and the distant thunder of footsteps. Something is coming. It doesn't see you, it doesn't even know you're here. You're only a whisper in the distant future. But the bones beneath you remember. They carry stories pressed into stone, tales of jaws lined with banana-sized teeth, tails that could whip with hurricane force, eyes that watched from the height of a 5-story building. Yet they also hold the memory of warmth, nests carefully built, eggs nestled, feathers preening under sundapple canopies. That duality, the monstrous and the maternal, flickers through your thoughts like heat lightning. Dinosaurs weren't just beasts. They were beings, some more bird than brute, some more shadow than skeleton, and tonight they are more dream than danger. You feel yourself drifting sideways in time. There is no calendar here, no years to count, just strata, sediment, the slow layering of eras like pages in a book without numbers. Did you know that dinosaurs lived not just millions of years ago, but over a span of 180 million years? That's longer than mammals have existed. Longer than flowers have bloomed, longer than this planet has known Antarctica as frozen, and yet they vanished in a geological instant. But not yet, not tonight. Tonight, you are curled above their memory. And memory, like fossils, is a kind of time machine. You imagine the world beneath the skin of the modern one, a ghost continent beneath your feet. Pangaea, vast and cracked. The land wasn't divided the way it is now. Africa leaned against South America like a sleeping sibling. India was still on its long, lonely journey north. The air was thicker, the oxygen higher. Dragonflies grew as big as pigeons, and somewhere, always dinosaurs. They weren't all predators, not all giants. Some were the size of chickens, some were the size of school buses, some walked alone, others travelled in herds that would take days to pass. You think of them moving beneath red skies, beside inland seas, and through forests of towering horsetails and cicads. It's quiet now, but not silent. You can hear the hush of ancient leaves, the pulse of footsteps muffled by distance, the low groan of shifting tectonic plates, still young and hot. A quirky thought drifts through. What if the earthworms you ignore in the garden are descendants of something that squirmed through dinosaur droppings? You smirk, half dreaming. The absurdities of scale are delicious at night. You settle deeper. The air around you seems to get heavier, like history itself is sitting cross-legged at the foot of your bed, ready to tell you a bedtime story billions of years long. Some scientists still debate what colour dinosaurs really were. Were they forest green and stone grey? Or did they gleam with iridescent feathers and showy frills? Your mind paints them in moonlight, shimmering and strange, a watercolour of biology and mystery. And then you wonder, if their bones are still here, still whispering, did they ever truly leave? You feel the answer in your heartbeat, in the lull of gravity, in the patience of stone. The bones beneath your bed aren't just bones, They're bookmarks, markers, proof that life, no matter how massive or magical, is temporary. But also unforgettable. You're still lying there, but something has shifted. Not in the room, not even in your body, in the air between your thoughts. The dinosaurs are still walking, just not here, not now. But if you close your eyes a little tighter, if you breathe just a little slower, you can almost feel their weight in the distance. You're not watching a documentary. You're drifting through a memory that doesn't belong to you. And yet somehow it does. The story of the dinosaurs isn't just one of scale or teeth or time. It's a story of endings. But before the end came the age of wonder. Tonight, you find yourself standing, not physically, just consciously, on the edge of a prehistoric coastline. The sky is pink-orange, the air is heavy with moisture and pollen. Insects drone in unfamiliar frequencies. Something flaps overhead, its wings like leather and thunder. You don't duck, you're not really here after all. But you watch. A group of hadrosaurs, duck-billed and soft-eyed, graze nearby. Their low grunts sound like old cellos being played by wind. A mother keeps watch while her young nudge through ferns taller than you. The world is green. Not bright green, heavy green. Leafy, layered, primeval. Then something shifts. Not a sound. A pressure. The hadrosaurs freeze. You feel the echo before you understand it. Deep, resonant, like the earth itself just cleared its throat. A predator is near, not a tyrannosaur. Too cliché. Something slimmer, quicker, maybe a dromaeosaur. You don't need the name, you just feel the tension ripple across a moment that never knew your name, but still recognizes your heartbeat. It passes. The hunter moves on. Not tonight. Not this choice dream. You drift further. Not just through time, but through understanding. Did you know that some dinosaurs were covered in feathers? Not the way birds are now, not all fluffy and flight-ready, but hints, filaments, proto-feathers that ruffled with expression, puffed in defense, shimmered with intention. There's fossil evidence. Paleontologists in China discovered tiny dinosaurs like Microraptor, preserved so delicately that the impressions of their feathers are still visible. And here's the strange, lovely twist. Their feathers had colour structures, iridescence, meaning they didn't just grow feathers for warmth or flight. They might have used them to impress each other, to be beautiful. Isn't that something? Even back then, creatures were evolving not just to survive, but to be seen. You pause here, let that settle, because what follows isn't easier. The world gets darker, not ominously, just inevitably. Time, as it always does, begins to press forward. And something massive is on its way, not with claws or teeth, not with intention, with silence. Scientists call it the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event. A mouthful, but you know it by simpler terms, the asteroid. It wasn't just a rock, it was 6 miles wide, moving faster than a bullet, slamming into what is now the Yucatan Peninsula. The impact was beyond comprehension. A shockwave circled the Earth, fires lit across continents, tsunamis taller than skyscrapers. But the real killer came after. The sky filled with ash. Sunlight disappeared. Photosynthesis stopped. The plants died, then the plant eaters, then the predators. It wasn't a single day. It was years of dusk and a slow suffocation of ecosystems. And 75% of life on Earth vanished. But not everything. You feel the world hush in your own room now, echoing that long silence after the impact. And yet, here you are. Something survived. Tiny, shivering things hiding in burrows. Scavengers, insect eaters, the early mammals. They didn't roar, they didn't stomp, but they endured. There's a strange comfort in that life isn't always about being the biggest or the loudest. Sometimes it's about adapting, about listening when the world changes and knowing when to burrow deep and wait for the light to return. That's what happened. While the dinosaurs fell and mammals rose, not quickly, not gloriously, but persistently, and some of them eventually looked like you. You shift slightly, your body relaxes, you didn't even notice the tension building until now. That's what stories do, they tuck into your chest, curl up and start humming. But you're not done yet, because the story of dinosaurs doesn't actually end. They're still here. You saw one today, you maybe even ate a descendant of one. That's not a metaphor, it's science. Modern birds are direct descendants of theropod dinosaurs. Chickens, little T-Rexes in disguise. Crows, smarter than you think and possibly smarter than your toaster. The bones line up, the structure holds, even the wishbone. So in a very real, very sleepy way, dinosaurs never vanished. They just became quieter. They took to the skies. They lightened their bones. They learned to sing. You smile, because maybe survival is its own kind of evolution. Maybe what took the dinosaurs' place wasn't just mammals. It was gentleness and it was adaptability. It was songs in the morning where once there were stomps at dusk. You roll over slowly. The blankets feel heavier now, not oppressively, comfortingly, like layers of sediment tucking you in. You wonder if the dinosaurs dreamed. What did they see? A world like this? Or one completely their own? Whatever it was, you're dreaming it now. The warmth of the blankets mimics something ancient now, something more than comfort. It's a memory your body carries from a time before pillows, before homes, before even language. Tonight the dream deepens. You don't feel like you're lying on a bed anymore. You feel like you're floating through layers, through time, through soil, through strata. Sediments settle around you gently, as if the earth itself has decided to rock you into stillness. You're drifting downward, slowly, through millions of years compressed into a soft hush. Layers of clay and ash, sandstone and secrets. Each one a chapter, each one a different rhythm. And just when it feels like you've reached the quietest place, something shifts. You hear it before you see it. A rustling, a chirp, and there, nestled among the ferns and fungi of a long-forgotten forest floor, is a small feathered creature. It looks at you, not startled, not afraid, just curious. Its feathers are iridescent in the filtered light. Not like a dinosaur, not like a bird, like something in between, because that's exactly what it is. A transitional form, and you're watching evolution whisper. This is Archaeopteryx, the so-called first bird. It lived around 150 million years ago, had wings, yes, and feathers, but also claws, teeth, a long bony tail. It didn't soar like an eagle. It fluttered more like a confused pigeon on its first flight, but it tried, and trying over enough generations became flying. You move through this moment like it's a liquid, like the air itself is thick with metamorphosis, and you wonder, what did it feel like the first time one of these creatures lifted fully off the ground? Was it freedom? Or just accidental? Did they notice the difference? Or did they just flap one day and forget they'd ever crawled? That's the thing about change. It's often so slow, you don't feel it until it's done. You drift forward, not through space, through transformation. You watch as feathers become more than insulation, as beaks replace jaws, as scales melt into soft down. It's not a line, it's a blur. And all the while the world keeps spinning. Continents drift, mountains rise and collapse, and creatures, so many creatures, come and go like passing thoughts. Some names you've never heard, some will never be known, but all of them lived. For a moment, for a breath, for an era. And that's all any of us do, really. You pass now through what scientists call the Paleocene epoch, the 10 million years after the asteroid. Earth is quieter, still smouldering in places, but life is returning, rewriting itself. Tiny mammals scurry between moss and mushrooms. Flowers bloom in colours the dinosaurs never saw. Beetles march on as they always do, and somewhere, maybe high in the trees, something chirps. Not a song, not yet, just a sound, a placeholder for the music to come. You smile because it's funny. The dinosaurs had their roar, but their legacy? It sings. You rise slightly now, not just through time, but through realization. That survival isn't always about domination. Sometimes it's about reinvention, the kind that happens quietly, like feathers growing where scales once were, like lullabies replacing footsteps, like stories replacing fossils. Did you know the hollow bones that make birds light enough to fly were once present in certain dinosaurs too? That birds' lungs are far more efficient than ours, not just adapted for flight, but for endurance. Some migratory birds can fly for days without stopping, crossing oceans, navigating by stars. All of that began with the clumsy glides of prehistoric dreams. You shift in your bed. The room feels bigger somehow, or maybe just older. Your breath deepens, your thoughts soften, you are still listening, and somewhere far above or deep within a wing beats. Not loudly, but with purpose. The same purpose that once allowed creatures to rise from extinction, not in protest, but in persistence. You are floating again, not away from the past, but toward the truth hidden inside it. That life always finds a new form, that endings are never truly endings, that what came after the dinosaurs was everything. The wing beats echo softly as you drift, not through the sky this time, but through possibility. You're suspended now in a peculiar in-between, not the world of dinosaurs, nor fully the world you know. This is the transition zone where biology experiments, reshuffles, reimagines itself. It's easy to imagine extinction as an ending, a curtain call, lights out. But here in the hush between epochs, it's clear. Extinction is also a stage, a silence before something new speaks. You drift downwards into the Earth's memory, into the Eocene epoch, a warm and humid time about 50 million years ago. No humans, no cities, no familiar mammals. But already the Earth has begun to repopulate its silence with sound and colour. Palm forests stretch toward the clouds. The poles, once frozen, are lush and green. Strange mammals, small and shadowy, scurry through the underbrush. Some have hooves, some have claws. Many have teeth like secrets, strange, evolving, inconsistent. You pass a tree wide and reaching, and nestled in its branches is a tiny creature, furry, long-tailed, with eyes like polished jet. It blinks. You blink. It's not a monkey, not yet, but it wants to be. These are the primate prototypes. Early experiments in vision, grip, and social bonding. Tiny ancestors of ancestors, with brains that haven't yet learned how to remember birthdays, but might remember where the tastiest fruit grows, and just like that, you feel it again, that shift. Because now it's not just about surviving, it's about adapting, evolving not just for shelter or speed, but for nuance, for interaction, for dreaming. Did you know one of the earliest primates, Darwinius macillae, was so well preserved that scientists could still see the outlines of her stomach contents? She was small, maybe the size of a ferret, but she carried the future in her frame. You float past her fossilized shadow still curled gently in repose. And you wonder, did she know? Did anything in her twitching dreams hint at what would come millions of years later? Probably not. But life doesn't need to know where it's going. It just needs to continue. You soar now over ancient grasslands. The first grasses have only recently appeared. Yes, even grass is new, relative to the scale of time. And with grass comes grazers, hoofed mammals, herds, community. You see creatures the size of dogs with long, flexible snouts. Early proboscideans, relatives of elephants, still shy and small, not yet armoured with tusks or wisdom. They trumpet awkwardly at one another, unsure whether they're singing or sneezing. Somewhere, something enormous crashes through the reeds. It's not a dinosaur, it's a new giant, a bronto there perhaps. Like a rhinoceros drawn by someone who's only heard it described in poetry. Massive, odd, and temporary. A placeholder for something more streamlined. That's the rhythm of this age. Experimentation. Nature throwing ideas into the evolutionary wind to see what sticks. Some forms vanish without a trace. Others refine over generations, becoming wolves, whales, or people. And through it all you float. Not above, alongside. You pass a lake where early crocodilians lurk, survivors of the ancient world unchanged in their design. They blink once, slowly, as if to say, we were here before, we'll be here after. A reminder that not all survivors are new. Sometimes the best strategy is to remain exactly what you are. A low hum fills the air, not mechanical, musical. It's the planet itself rebuilding its chorus. Insects buzz, amphibians croak, birds call, birds yes everywhere. Not the giants of prehistory, but bright flashes of colour in the treetops, inventing song one note at a time. Birds are what remain of the dinosaurs, but they're not remnants, they're reinventions. You watch one land near you, small, alert, beautiful. It tilts its head and fluffs its feathers. That's the trick of survival. It doesn't just preserve, it transforms. And sometimes it forgets the past completely, so it can write something entirely new. You pass through twilight. Not night, not day, just that golden sliver of light where change feels most at home. And there, standing alone in a field, is something even stranger. An early horse. No saddle, no shoes, just a small deer-like creature with 3 toes and wide, uncertain eyes. It flicks its tail and gallops, wobbly, awkward, perfect. That gallop will echo through time. You've entered a phase of Earth where memory and invention overlap. Every heartbeat writes a possibility. Every adaptation whispers, maybe this will work. Some won't, but some will become everything. You take a deep breath and it feels richer somehow, like it's carrying traces of a million stories, not from books, from bodies, from bones. And you realize life is not a line, and it's a braid, twisting, looping, reweaving itself in every age, at every shape, every breath, and you're floating inside that braid and held by time, cradled by consequence, and slowly, very slowly so, moving forward, the light around you deepens, not darker, just thicker, like honey poured over the edge of thought. You're still drifting, but now the current feels warmer, softer, like it's guiding you towards something more familiar, more human. Not quite people yet, not civilization, but the blueprint is being drawn. The world around you has shifted again, quietly. You're in the Oligocene now, about 30 million years ago, a time of refinement, of scaling down and specializing. Gone are the monstrous forms of earlier epochs. What you see now are creatures figuring out how to live smarter, not bigger. You pass a cliffside dotted with burrows, and out hops a creature that looks uncannily like a modern-day rabbit. But with longer limbs, slightly different ears, a prototype, a whisper of lagomorph, it twitches its nose and bolts. You smile, then overhead you hear it. A scream, high-pitched and distant. Not human, not pain, just warning. You look up and see a bird of prey, a hawk ancestor, circling on the thermals. The balance has begun, predator and prey, a dance as old as breath. And beneath it all, the earth keeps humming. Mountains rise and crumble, rivers snake and split. Continents shuffle their positions like they're trying to find the best light. You drift past a forest edge and into a grassy plain. Grass is becoming more than scenery now. It's shaping evolution. Grazers grow flatter teeth. Runners evolve longer limbs. Eyes shift to the sides of heads to better scan the horizon for danger. It's an arms race without malice, just necessity, just life. And then you see them, tiny, unassuming, curious. Early monkeys, their tails curl with precision. Their hands grasp, not just for food, but for connection. A mother cradles her young in a way that feels familiar, almost sacred. Did you know the first monkeys likely evolved in Africa, but some species somehow made their way to South America, possibly by floating across the oceans on mats of vegetation after storms? Yes. Monkeys, on rafts, real science, real absurdity. You picture it, tiny hands clinging to branches, staring wide-eyed at the endless sea, and yet they made it. Because life is stubborn, and adventurous, and oddly poetic. Now the air feels warmer, the sky wider. Evolution is no longer scrambling, it's editing. You pass a group of strange mammals with long snouts and stubby legs, ancient relatives of pigs perhaps. They grunt and dig with surprising elegance. The world they live in is recognizable, but not quite ours. A dream version of Earth, a rehearsal, and in that dream your presence doesn't disturb. You're not a ghost here, you're a guest. You move through the canopy of a forest, watching lemur-like creatures leap with practiced grace. They don't see you, but you feel like they sense something, like a ripple in the fabric of what's coming. Because it is coming, you're moving toward it. The edges of the human story, not yet told, but the ink is on the page, the pen is moving. Here's a thought that floats up like a bubble from the depths. Evolution doesn't have a goal, no destination, it's just process, improvisation, a jam session with DNA and time. And yet, look at what's emerging. Eyes that see in colour, hands that hold and build, brains that remember not just danger, but songs. Laughter. You float now over the ocean. It sparkles in the sun. Below the surface, whales sing in slow ancient harmonies. They've evolved from land creatures, believe it or not. Four-legged ancestors return to the water, trading fur for blubber, feet for flippers. Every species has a story like that, a turn, a pivot, a mystery, and that includes us. You turn gently in the air like a leaf in a breeze and find yourself hovering over a clearing. In it, something walks on two legs, not human, not yet, but getting there. Its steps are awkward but determined. Its gaze is long, like it's looking past the trees into a future it doesn't yet understand. The brow is heavy, the arms are long, but the spark is unmistakable. A hominid. And as you drift above this moment, it feels like holding your breath, like watching a match about to strike, because that's what it is. The match, the moment before the first fire, before the first word, before the first dream. And yet even now, this creature, your distant cousin, is already dreaming. Of food, of safety, maybe even of companionship. That's the thing about becoming human. It starts long before tools or language, and it starts with longing. And so you drift with that longing, wrapped in it, carried forward like a seed in the wind. You are nearing the edge of deep time, and on the other side is memory. The air has a different kind of weight now, not heavier, just denser, as though you've drifted into a thicker layer of history, the kind still humming with echoes. You're not flying anymore, you're walking, barefoot, quiet through a forest that is not entirely unfamiliar. A leaf crunches beneath your foot, not dry, just firm, the trees sway, tall and thoughtful, casting long shadows across the pathless ground. And ahead, just beyond a bend in the woods, there's something moving. It's walking upright, but don't rush to name it. Not yet. Its stride is uneven, knuckles still kiss the ground, but there's something behind the eyes, something watching, storing, wondering. You've met Australopithecus. Roughly 4 million years ago, this bipedal creature walked the borderlands of ape and human. Not tall, not fierce, but observant. Curious, it didn't build skyscrapers, but it did something perhaps more impressive. It survived. Scientists still debate the exact path from Australopithecus to Homo habilis to Homo erectus. The branches twist, some go extinct, some merge, some fade without a trace. The human family tree is more of a tangled bush, with more almosts than definites. And that's okay. Evolution isn't neat. You trail behind a small group of these early walkers. They don't see you, but they feel something. A shift in the air, a hush in the trees. One pauses, tilts her head. She's holding something. A rock worn smooth. She's not using it yet, but the idea is there. You pause with her, listen to her breath. It sounds like yours. You keep walking. Ahead, time bends again. You're closer now to Homo habilis, the so-called handyman. About 2.5 million years ago, the name comes from evidence of tool use. Simple, sharp-edged stones for cutting meat and cracking bone. Imagine that first spark of intention. Not instinct, not accident, but choice, to shape, to build, to create. You hover above a flat clearing. 2 figures crouch over a carcass. One holds a stone, not randomly, purposefully. It chips away at the bone rhythmically, efficiently. The sound is ancient, but it's the first beat of something deeply familiar. Creation. There's blood. Yes, but also ingenuity. You might wonder, how do we know all this? Because we've found their tools, left behind like breadcrumbs in the silence, some chipped, some smooth, but all echoing a simple truth. They were trying. And isn't that the most human thing of all? Trying. You drift forward in time again. A few 100,000 years pass like the blink of a slow eye. And now you're walking beside Homo erectus. Taller, straighter, fire maker. Did you know they were the first to harness fire? Not invent it. Fire existed long before them, but they learned to keep it, to tend it, to gather around it. Fire, the original social media, the first theatre, the first security system. You see it now, a flickering flame at the centre of a small group. Shadows dance across their faces. One hums, another pokes the fire with a stick, watching sparks rise like ancient fireflies. And you feel it, the pull of warmth, the draw of light in darkness, the comfort of others. This is where stories began. Not with words, but with presence, with shared silence, with eyes reflecting flame. You sit with them, though you can't be seen. One leans back, staring into the dark beyond the firelight. Maybe they're dreaming of mammoths, of tomorrow, of nothing. You feel something stir in your chest, because the closer you get to humankind, the more you feel yourself soften. Stretch. Remember. The ground beneath you is changing, hardening into trail. The air tastes of ash and breath and something electric. Anticipation. A voice rises in your mind, gentle, amused. They were never becoming human. They already were. And you're remembering what it means. To walk, to wonder, to worry. You're almost back now. Not quite, but close. The fire flickers again, as if waving goodbye. Or maybe welcoming you forward. Time is quicksand now. It doesn't pull you under, it invites you deeper, warmer, more aware. The flicker of that first fire still lingers behind your eyes, like a dream you're trying to remember. You walk through shadowed terrain, not quite ancient anymore, but not quite now. Your feet touch grass, then stone, then something flat and sun-baked, earth shaped by purpose. Welcome to the world of Homo sapiens. You've arrived. It's roughly 300,000 years ago. The air holds a different kind of silence here. Not empty, but alert. Everything is watching everything else. You see them gathered at the edge of a hill, not many. A dozen, maybe two. They are small, quick, clever, and they are beginning to tell stories. Not with language, not yet, but with movement, with gesture, with ritual. A child scratches lines into a smooth piece of bone. Is it a message? A symbol? A doodle? We still argue about it. But whatever it is, it's intentional. This is where art is born, where abstraction begins. Your breath slows as you hover closer. You're watching minds unfold in real time, not with screens, but with sparks. One of them points to the stars, no words, just a hand raised, a breath held, a silence shared. The others follow the gesture, eyes wide. There's wonder there, not survival, wonder. They've begun to ask questions, and that changes everything. What happens when creatures start asking why? They build gods, they name rivers, they bury their dead with flowers. You watch it unfold. Someone is pressing ochre, red pigment, against the wall of a shallow cave, a palm print, left behind. Their version of a signature, their way of saying, I was here. Even now those prints remain. Did you know some of the earliest known art comes from 40,000 years ago? Not from Homo sapiens alone, but possibly from Neanderthals too. They weren't just brute survivalists, they were painters, carvers, decorators of silence. And that's the twist, because now you see the Neanderthals too. Stockier, yes, stronger, but more like us than we often admit. You hover above a burial site, a body tucked in, carefully arranged. There are remnants of flowers, traces of pollen in the soil. Mourning maybe, or honour, or both. The scientists still debate this. Were Neanderthals spiritual? Did they imagine life after death, or were they simply ritualistic without knowing why? No one knows, but tonight in this drifting dream of yours, the question is more important than the answer. You step through time again. Now you're walking with Homo sapiens across Africa, the cradle of beginnings. They are migrating, spreading. It takes tens of thousands of years. Footsteps across deserts, across ice, across possibility. You see cave systems in France, shell beads in Morocco, a flute carved from vulture bone in Germany, over 35,000 years old. A flute. Think about that. Someone so long ago decided the world needed music. Not food, not shelter, not weapons, music. Because what's the point of surviving if you can't feel beauty? You move forward, slowly, like a ghost with full memory. Time folds again. You land in a clearing lit by moonlight. There are people around a fire, but this is different. There are patterns in the way they sit, roles forming. The first inklings of society. One is telling a story not just with gestures, but with language or words. Did you know the emergence of complex language might be the most significant leap in human history? We don't know exactly when it began, maybe 50,000 years ago, maybe earlier, but once we could speak, we could remember. And once we could remember, we could imagine futures. The person speaking is older, the others lean in. The story may be about a hunt or a dream or a god who hides behind the moon. It doesn't matter. What matters is that they're sharing time now, synchronizing awareness, wiring their minds together through rhythm and metaphor. Sound familiar? It should. You're doing it right now, listening, imagining, drifting through someone else's memory. You realize suddenly this isn't a history lesson, it's a reunion. Because those people by the fire, they are you. Older, wilder, softer in the places we've forgotten how to be soft. You watch them smile, and you smile back. The fire flickers like an eyelid. And just like that, the world begins to shift again. Not forward, but upward. The fire fades behind you, but its warmth lingers. You rise again, not through effort, but invitation. The air grows cooler as the trees thin out and time stretches forward like a freshly unrolled scroll. The stars rearrange above you, mountains flatten, rivers change their beds, and humanity accelerates. You find yourself floating above a vast fertile plain. It's crisscrossed not by animal tracks, but by lines. Straight lines. Intentional lines. Someone has started drawing borders. You're in the Neolithic now, roughly 10,000 years ago. The agricultural revolution has begun. Wheat and barley sway gently below you. Domesticated, cultivated, transformed. And so are the people, no longer just hunters and wanderers. They are settlers, gardeners, gatherers of routine. You hover over one of the first villages, round mud homes, fire pits, storage jars. Here, the very shape of time begins to change. The day is no longer just sunrise to sleep. Now, there's planting season. Harvest, lunar cycles, people are inventing schedules. You can almost hear it, the ticking of the first mental clocks. Did you know the oldest known calendar might be an array of pits carved into a Scottish field nearly 10,000 years ago, each one possibly aligning with the phases of the moon? You float above those pits now, empty, ancient, deliberate. And then, cities. Like mushrooms after rain, they bloom. Uruk, Jericho, Çatalhöyük. You pass over them, watching time stack in layers, mud, brick, stone, smoke, laughter. The cities are noisy, but the noise has order. People aren't just surviving anymore, they're organising. Building temples, digging irrigation channels, trading grain for obsidian, arguing, worshipping. In Sumer, someone makes a mark in wet clay. A wedge, a line, another wedge. Cuneiform, the first known writing. You hover as the marks dry in the sun. Writing changes everything. Because now, memory isn't just personal, it's portable. Someone writes down a debt, a prayer, a recipe, a king's name, and time once wild and uncatchable is now being archived. You drift past stone tablets scratched with symbols, past scrolls, past knotted strings from the Andes, quipu, used for record-keeping by the Inca. Even language starts evolving. New words for new things, and words for things we're losing too. The deeper people move into time, the more they try to measure it. You see the first sundials casting long shadows across sand. The water clocks, clepsydras, dripping slowly in Egyptian temples. In ancient China, candle clocks that burned with marked precision. It's beautiful. It's a little desperate. Because humans aren't just living in time now, they're trying to control it. You pass through Babylon, where they divided the day into hours, minutes, seconds. Why 60? Historians think it's because the Sumerians used base 60 counting. It made math easier. But here's the irony. We built a system of time to navigate life, and ended up being ruled by it. You drift into Greece now. Archimedes is sketching in the sand. Time isn't just something we measure, it's something we study. Then Rome, then Alexandria. In every direction, calendars multiply. Some follow the moon, some follow the sun, some try to follow both, and fail gloriously. Did you know, in 46 BCE, Julius Caesar reformed the Roman calendar because it had drifted 90 days out of sync with the seasons? The Julian calendar tried to fix that. It almost worked, until it didn't. Centuries later, Pope Gregory XIII would try again. You blink, and you're in 1582. The Gregorian calendar is introduced, and with it 10 days are erased from history. Poof, gone. People went to sleep on October 4th and woke up on October 15th. Imagine that. 10 days, because time, it turns out, can be edited. You smile, because of course it can. You're living proof. Right now, drifting through millennia in the time it takes to exhale, you're watching 1,000 civilizations trying to tame something that refuses to be owned. And still, we try. The mechanical clock arrives. You hover above a tower in 14th century England. Gears grind, bells toll, and people adjust their lives to hours instead of sunrises. Industrialization tightens that grip. Suddenly time isn't just passing, it's being bought and sold. Punch cards, factory whistles, railroad schedules, even sleep changes. We used to sleep in 2 shifts, first sleep, then a midnight waking, then second sleep. But artificial light rewired that rhythm. You watch candlelight give way to gaslight. Gaslight to Edison's bulbs, bulbs to screens, and in every flicker, something deep inside humanity recalibrates. We're not just marking time now, we're filling it, booking it. scheduling it, and trying not to waste it, but sometimes, late at night, alone, you still feel the edges of that older rhythm, that slower breath. And that's why you're here, isn't it? Not to be efficient, but to remember. To feel how time once flowed without numbers. You drift upward again. The stars are where they were before. Because cosmic time doesn't care about meetings or deadlines. It just is. And maybe that's the most comforting part. You're not late. You're just arriving. The sky above you isn't dark anymore. It's velvet. Thick, soft, textured with time. The stars don't blink. They breathe. And beneath that breathing canopy, you continue drifting forward. Though forward now feels like a suggestion more than a direction. Civilization has matured. You're floating just above the rooftops of bustling medieval cities, where church bells toll not just for worship, but to remind people when to rise, when to work, when to pray, when to rest. Time has become sacred, but also suspicious. You feel it in the way monks chart the heavens from tall stone towers, in how calendars now decide when to sow seeds or wage war. You pass over monasteries with candle-lit libraries, where scribes bend over parchment, copying ancient timekeeping manuscripts with reverent ink-stained fingers. They are trying to pin time down, to fold it into lines and rules, but every so often, something unexpected breaks through. A comet appears, a harvest comes early, an eclipse shocks the world into silence, and time once again feels strange. You float across centuries with less resistance now, like time itself wants to show you something, wants to converse. The Enlightenment arrives, all crisp wigs and curiosity. Philosophers start asking what time really is, not just how to measure it, but how to define it. Isaac Newton calls it absolute, something steady and universal, but then comes Leibniz, arguing it's relational, shaped by events. Even now, physicists still debate. Is time a thing, or just a shadow cast by movement? You smile again, because of course you've felt both answers. You pass through the industrial age, steam and soot and gears. Trains now demand synchronized clocks. Did you know it wasn't until 1883 that American cities adopted standard time zones? Before that, each town ran on its own solar time. Noon was whenever the sun hit the highest point. Imagine that. No two clocks quite the same. No world schedule, just local rhythm. It seems dreamy now, but progress needed precision. You hover over factories, over telegraph lines strung like spiderwebs across continents, pulsing with electric ticks of time. Then, 20th century, the pace quickens, wristwatches, time cards, atomic clocks, and then Einstein. You hover at the edge of his mind, and he doesn't just bend time, he unknots it. According to his theory of relativity, time is not fixed. It stretches, it warps, it slows down near gravity, or when you move very fast. In fact, astronauts living on the International Space Station age just a tiny bit slower than those of us on Earth. Think about that. Time is not a constant stream, it's a shifting fabric. You're floating in it now, seeing the folds. And somewhere inside that fabric, a man builds the first digital computer. Another slices time into ones and zeros. The world becomes pixelated, and suddenly, we're not just living in time, we're streaming it. You pass through the neon glow of the late 20th century. Fast food, faster news, real-time everything. There's something dizzying about it. Because now every second is tracked. Fitness apps, notifications, calendar invites that fill your day like beads on a wire. Even sleep becomes something to monitor. You pause here, because this is where you live. Not just you personally, but you as a species. In a world that worships speed, measures productivity in hours worked, and ties self-worth to efficiency. It's no wonder time feels strange. You're not meant to sprint through the days like a stopwatch on legs. You're meant to wander, to breathe, to let moments hang like fruit ripe and slow. But here's the good part. You're not trapped in this rush, because time, even now, is still subjective. Studies show that people who focus on the present moment through meditation, art, even gardening, report that time slows down. That's not magic, that's awareness. And the more you pay attention, the more elastic time becomes. You float now over a child drawing with chalk on the sidewalk. Every line feels infinite, every second precious. Then you drift to an elderly man sitting on a bench watching birds. For him, time is quieter, fuller, wider. And for you, you begin to feel the pull again, that soft tide, Not backward, not forward, but inward, towards something timeless, because maybe time isn't a path. Maybe it's a place, and maybe, just maybe, you're almost there. You don't notice the boundary at first. There's no line drawn between the digital world and whatever this is, but something has changed. The lights are gentler, the sky above pulses slower, even your thoughts don't arrive all at once now. They stretch, they echo. You've passed into something quieter, deeper, more personal. You're floating inside the memory, but not your own. These memories belong to time itself. Below you now is a forest, but not the kind you know. No paved paths, no signs, just wild growth. Towering trees older than empires, ferns the size of dreams. You've arrived at deep time, a term geologists use for time beyond human history, beyond written record, beyond even fossil memory. Millions, billions of years stacked silently in the bones of the earth. You land on a stone. It's cool, solid. But inside that stone is a story. Tiny flecks of minerals have been aged by pressure, heat, erosion, and chance. Each one a timestamp, a journal entry from the crust. Did you know the Earth is about 4.5 billion years old? And if you compress that entire history into a 24-hour clock, humans wouldn't appear until 11:59 p.m. 1 minute, you blink, we've only been here 1 minute, and yet we fill calendars, write histories, build digital archives of seconds, as if the universe runs on our schedule. It doesn't, and that's okay. You're starting to understand now why time feels strange, why in solitude or silence or sleep, it slips away. It's not broken, it's just honest. Because deep time doesn't tick, it breathes. You walk now slowly through a canyon. Layered rocks flank both sides, each colour a different age, a different climate, a different world. Somewhere in these layers, a dinosaur once walked. Somewhere else, a fish with lungs flopped its way toward land. Somewhere, a volcano ended a species that had only just begun. And above all of it, the sky looked almost the same. Still stars, still night, still waiting. You pause beside a fossil, it's curled into stone as if sleeping. You wonder how long it's rested here, untouched, unseen. Time didn't forget it. It simply carried it. Like a lullaby tucked between pages. That's the thing about time, it remembers. Even when we don't. You lean in, not to touch the fossil, but to listen. And you hear it. Not words, not facts, but something more honest. A rhythm, the slow beat of change, of patience, of becoming. And it sounds familiar. Because it's the same rhythm inside your own chest. Heartbeat, breath, pause, the tempo of being alive. Scientists debate whether time is an illusion, whether it only exists in our minds or if it's a fundamental fabric of reality. Some argue that in the realm of quantum mechanics, past and future blur, fold, even cancel each other out. Others say time is tied to entropy, the tendency of everything to fall into disorder. A cup shattering, a leaf withering, a candle burning. That, they say, is the arrow of time. But here's something delightful. Even if that's true, you can still feel backwards. You can still remember. You can still dream. You can still imagine what came before. And maybe that's its own kind of time travel. You sit now on the edge of a cliff, legs dangling over eons. The wind smells like salt and stone and something older than language. You look up at the stars, and there, staring back, are photons of light that have travelled millions of years just to greet your eyes. You're not watching the stars. You're watching the past, literally. The light you see tonight may have started its journey before humans were born, before mammals, before flowers. You're seeing ancient light, and it recognizes you. You, the momentary miracle, the blink in the timeline, the ripple with a name. And instead of feeling small, you feel perfectly placed. Not because you're the centre, but because you're part of it all. You lie back. The stone holds you. The stars don't need to explain themselves, and neither do you. Time stretches, then folds, and everything softens. You wake, but not quite. It's the kind of waking that happens inside a dream, where nothing is solid, but everything feels close. The air is velvet, the silence is warm, and time doesn't start again. It continues, like a sentence paused mid-thought. You're somewhere familiar now, but deeper. The walls have melted away. The room is gone, and in its place a soft, endless field. Not grass, not sand, just texture like woven fog beneath your bare feet. You walk, and with each step you feel not just the weight of your body, but the weight of time itself. Not in a heavy way, in a layered way. Moments stack beneath your heels, childhood mornings, first kisses, silent tears on long car rides. You didn't mean to carry them, but here they are, gently folded into the fabric of who you've become. You look up, and above you constellations shift. Not in patterns you know, but in feelings. Each cluster seems to hum with an emotion. One joy, one regret, one memory you've never had but understand completely. It's strange and perfect. You walk slower now because even slowness feels fast. Every movement leaves a shimmer in the air, like your path is being stitched into time as you go. Did you know, in certain neurological states like déjà vu or epilepsy, people can feel time double back on itself? Like the present and the past overlap for a moment, and the brain can't quite untangle which is which. Some researchers call it temporal looping. Others say it's just a glitch in how memory is formed. But what if it's neither? What if it's a reminder that time isn't flat, that moments echo, that you've been here before and will be again? You pause beside a pool of water, still, silver, infinite. It doesn't reflect your face, it reflects when you are. One moment the surface shows a childhood bedroom, another, your grandmother's laugh. Then a day that hasn't happened yet, a version of you with silver in your hair, smiling at someone who doesn't exist yet but feels like home. This is subjective time turned inside out, and you are learning its language. You lean closer, not to touch, to listen. The water whispers things like, "You were here before clocks. You've always been older than your memories. You're not behind or ahead. You're exactly right now." Somewhere far off a chime rings. It's not urgent, it's not calling you away. It's just reminding you this moment is real, even if it dissolves. Scientists have studied time perception in altered states. Trance, hypnosis, meditation, sensory deprivation. The common thread? Disconnection from external input. The more you turn inward, the less time behaves like it should. That's what's happening here. You're not escaping reality. You're exploring a different dimension of it. The one behind your eyes, the one that never ticks. The one where every second is a question, not a measurement. You look at your hands. They're shimmering now, not glowing, not transparent, just fluid. Like they're made of the same thing as thought. And maybe they are. You begin to walk again, but it doesn't feel like walking, more like remembering how to move. Each step takes you somewhere else, not farther, just deeper. You pass through a doorway made of sound. It hums softly, like your favourite lullaby played backward. Beyond it, a library with no walls, just floating books, each one glowing softly, each one labelled with a date that doesn't make sense. You reach for one. The moment your fingers brush the spine, you feel it, an entire hour from your childhood. A forgotten laugh. A warm breeze through open windows, the smell of your old bed sheets. This isn't nostalgia, it's re-entry, because those moments didn't vanish, they just got shelved. And now, in this strange, dreamy architecture of memory and time, you're allowed to visit. You don't take the book, you just nod. And time nods back, because in this place, time isn't a master. It's a companion. You keep moving through stacks of memory, through corridors of potential. At one point, you pass a hallway made of clocks. Each one ticks differently, some fast, some slow, and some not at all. You realize every person lives in a slightly different tempo. Personal rhythm of experience, a unique drumbeat of awareness. And no one's is wrong. The hallway ends with a single open door. Beyond it, a room that looks a lot like the one you started in, but it's not the same, because you're not the same and you lie down and not to sleep, to arrive. And as you exhale, something shifts. Time bows, not to leave, but to thank you for noticing it. You're floating again, but this time not through memory or metaphor, through something more elemental, through silence. Not the kind that's empty, but the kind that's full, heavy, like a blanket woven from paused thoughts and unspoken questions. You drift there, in the hush between moments, where even your heartbeat feels polite, softer, like it's tiptoeing through a cathedral made of stars. Time in this place is not something that passes, it's something that holds, and tonight it's holding you. You pass a stone suspended in space. On it, the carving of a spiral, endless, ancient, a symbol used by cultures all over the world to represent time, not as a line, but as a curve. The Celts, the Greeks, the Maori, even galaxies themselves. Spirals, why? Maybe because deep down we know time doesn't just go forward, it curls, it returns, it echoes. Did you know certain tribes in the Amazon don't have words for past and future? They structure time entirely around the present moment. To them, what matters isn't when something happened, but how it feels now. Imagine living like that. You float through more spirals now, made of smoke, of light, of memory. Each one spins with a different rhythm. You reach for one, and suddenly you're watching your past self tying a shoe, laughing at something, scraping a knee, not as a memory, as a witness. And then the moment spirals away again, back into the folds of wherever it came from. You're not trapped in the past, you're just passing through its echo chamber. You pause in the quiet again, not because you're tired, though you are, but because the silence has grown so rich, you want to taste it. There's a flavour to this moment, a texture, like chocolate and velvet and candle smoke all melted into one. You inhale, and the air tastes like pause. That's when you hear it. A ticking, faint, but steady. You follow it and find a clock. But it's not on a wall, it's in a tree, a slow-growing ancient thing. Its rings pulse with time, one for every year, every drought, every whisper of wind that shaped its bark. Did you know trees record time in their bodies? Their growth rings show not just age, but weather, disease, fires, even solar flares from the sun. They don't just mark time, they remember it. You place your hand on the trunk, and for a moment the tree remembers you back. A moment flashes, not yours, but your ancestors. Someone long ago, also touching bark, also breathing slow, also wondering why time moves the way it does. That's when it hits you. Maybe time is a relationship, not a force, not a dimension, but an intimacy between moments. And maybe solitude makes it louder because you're finally quiet enough to hear it. You sit beneath the tree, let the quiet surround you. And then, like an old friend, the moon rises. Its light pours across the spiral ground, across the ticking branches, across your face, and suddenly you feel it again. That odd softness, that perfect slowness, that truth. Time doesn't always demand to be filled. Sometimes it just asks to be felt. You lean back, not to sleep, not yet, but to merge with this moment, completely. No edges, no goals, no measure, just you and this breath and the next. And maybe that's all time ever was. Not a ruler, not a countdown, just a companion sitting beside you, waiting patiently for you to notice. You remain beneath the tree, still, but not stagnant, like a droplet in a leaf, waiting for gravity's quiet cue. The moonlight filters through the branches above you in soft, fragmented patterns, an accidental clock made of shadow and shimmer. You close your eyes, and somehow that makes the world wider. Because what you're seeing now doesn't come from sight, it comes from presence. Your body softens. Your thoughts stretch like cats in the sun. And time, sweet shy time, continues its peculiar rhythm beside you. You hear it in your breath, in the shifting bark, in the pulse at your neck. It doesn't tick, it hums, and in that hum, another truth begins to flicker. You've been told time moves only forward, like a line, a march, a one-way ticket. But some physicists say otherwise, that time is not linear, that the past, present, and future might all exist simultaneously, that we only perceive a direction because our consciousness demands a story. Isn't that curious? That we might just be following the thread, not weaving it? You imagine time now as a library, not with rows of ticking clocks, but with books, infinite books, each one a moment, not just of you but of everything. You pull one down and it opens not to words but to feelings. Warmth, laughter, loneliness, rain on metal, a bus ride where someone smiled at you and you never knew why. A silence between friends that said more than talking ever could. The book smells like citrus and old paper. Time has a scent after all. We just forget to smell it. You place it back gently. The library remains. Endless, inviting. You walk its aisles barefoot. The floor creaks not with wood but with memory. Somewhere in the distance a grandfather clock chimes, but instead of a bell it plays a lullaby you haven't heard since childhood. You pause, and suddenly you're not in a library. You're in your grandmother's kitchen. There's tea on the stove, steam rising, a cat curling on a chair. No one speaks, but the air is full of story, of timing, because that's what life is, isn't it? Not a series of events, but a choreography of timing. Meeting someone 5 minutes earlier or later, and never knowing what could have changed. Missing a train that leads to a new job, a delayed text that saves a relationship. Time doesn't just move, and it aligns. And maybe, when you're alone, it's not stretching. It's aligning you with something deeper. Something beyond. You blink, and the kitchen is gone. The library is gone. Even the tree is faded. Now you're floating in a sea of clocks, but none of them tick. None of them count. They simply glow, softly, patiently, like fireflies made of memory. Each one is a version of you. One stayed in that city, one kissed them back, and one never took that job, but they're all you. All moving through their own time, and none of them feel rushed. Because time, real time, doesn't rush. It waits, it listens, it lets you be late for your own awakening. You exhale and the clocks scatter. You're left in a field of quiet stars, and you realize you're not lost in time, you're becoming it. One breath at a time. You're still in that star field, but it feels less like you're floating in space now, and more like you've become a space of your own, a constellation of calm, a slow universe stitched together by breaths and blinks. No longer observing time, just being part of its fabric. You move, not with effort, but with ease, like a tide that's forgotten where the shore ends. And something odd begins to happen. You start hearing echoes, but not of sound, of moments. A laugh you didn't know you remembered. The exact rhythm of your father's footsteps in the hallway. The hush of snow against a window when you were 10. These aren't memories. They're timestamps. Not placed in your mind, but in your body. Did you know your cells can tell time? Circadian rhythms, cellular clocks. Even your organs operate on their own unique schedule. Your liver knows it's night. Your brain pulses with slow-wave activity. Your skin becomes more sensitive to touch. Your very biology is a timekeeper. And in solitude, when distractions fade, you finally hear it. That internal clock, ticking not with seconds, but with sensation. You run your fingers along your forearm. The hairs stand up slightly. The skin cools, then warms, and for a moment you understand. Your body is a sundial, a lunar calendar, a symphony of repeating patterns, and somewhere in that music, you begin to notice a second rhythm beneath the first. It's fainter, older, less predictable. It's the rhythm of geological time, of mountains rising and falling, of oceans forming and evaporating, of species appearing, vanishing, evolving. And here you are, brief, blinking, beautiful, feeling it hum beneath your bones. You wonder, what did time feel like to a trilobite, to a Neanderthal, to a tree before humans named the seasons? Maybe it didn't feel like anything. Maybe feeling time is a gift, one we only receive in quiet. You lie back on this cosmic plane. The stars overhead are not just light, they are history, literally. The light from some of them left its source before your species even existed. You are looking into the past, and yet it shines here, now, upon your face. There's poetry in that, isn't there? That time can delay itself, just to meet you in a moment like this. And now the stars begin to pulse, gently, a celestial Morse code. You don't know the language, but somehow you understand. They're not saying anything new, just reminding you that nothing ever truly leaves. Not light, not memory, not time. It just changes speed. And tonight, it's slowed enough for you to feel it, completely. You close your eyes again, and this time, the dark isn't empty. It's full of things you didn't have time to notice before, because time didn't pause. You just paused with it, and sometimes that's all it takes to remember. You're not running out of time. You're swimming through it, gracefully, sleepily, homeward. You're drifting now, gently, like a feather caught in a dream. Not forward, not back, just deeper. The fabric of time around you feels loose and forgiving, like an old sweater you forgot you loved. It no longer demands attention, it simply accompanies you, and maybe that's the point. Maybe time was never supposed to be a ruler or a race. Maybe it's more like a lullaby, meant to soothe, not measure. You feel this in your breath, in the quiet between thoughts, in the soft way your limbs let go of tension without asking for permission. And beneath all that, something ancient hums, a kind of knowing, that you've always been more than a clock-bound creature, that some part of you remembers how to move without hours, to rest without guilt, to be without proving. You don't need a calendar to matter. You don't need a deadline to belong. You just need this stillness, this gentle starlit moment of remembering. You turn slowly without effort and see the version of yourself who never hurried, who never rushed, who let life arrive in its own time. They look like you, but softer, clearer. And then they fade. Not because they're gone, but because you've become them. You smile, and that smile feels timeless. It exists outside of minutes, beyond notifications, beyond alarm clocks and meeting invites. It is the smile of someone who remembered they are allowed to rest, allowed to wonder, allowed to float. Did you know some cultures don't even have a word for time as we define it? They don't ask what time is it, they ask what's happening now, and maybe that's the better question. Because right now, this is happening. You, still, safe, suspended in your own story. There are no instructions here and no milestones, just this. A long exhale, a body that trusts the bed beneath it, a mind that's finally quiet. You think back, barely, to clocks, to schedules, to expectations. They feel light years away, like echoes from someone else's life, not unwelcome, just unnecessary. Because you're not living on their time anymore. You've found your own. And it stretches forever in every direction, like stardust, like sleep, like love. No beginning, no end, just now. You're weightless now. Not because gravity has let go, but because you've surrendered to it. This stillness is not empty. It's full of memory, of meaning, of motion too small to see. You lie in the quiet like a drop of ink settling into warm water, spreading slowly, becoming something beautiful without trying. Around you, the world doesn't disappear. It softens, like candlelight behind frosted glass. Time, that strange companion, doesn't tick anymore. It hums, and its hum sounds like your breath. You feel your body as landscape. Hills of tension now smooth. Rivers of thought slowed to a gentle ripple. No need to get anywhere. You are already here, and here is enough. Somewhere outside, a breeze nudges the leaves. Somewhere inside, your mind lets go of its last held thought. Even the stars seem quieter now, like they've dimmed their shine so your dreams can speak louder. You don't need to understand the universe tonight. You just need to belong to it. And you do. Every cell, every sigh. A part of something vast and unhurried. Let the world keep spinning. Let the clocks keep counting. You are timeless now. This moment is yours. It asks nothing and gives everything. So rest. Deeply. Wondrously. Because the best kind of journey is the one that brings you home to yourself. And you're already there. Right here. Good night, traveller. Sleep well.